morning, good morning, good morning. How are you? Happy Monday. Happy Monday. What'd you do for the weekend? And let us know where you're watching from. Let me know what you did for the weekend. I'm going to tell you, we need to get Don a teleporter. Yes. Well, I guess you realize what, from me taking a bicycle, I believe that to be true. And let's see here. I believe that to be true. Just so, I wanted to show you what it said. My ride was exactly 7 minutes this morning. So why would I take anything? A teleporter would be great, Nanner. So thank you for that. Good morning. Where are you guys watching from? Seattle, says Casual Observer. Good morning to all. Good morning, Casual Observer. Cindy D, hello from Kansas. I'm so glad that you could join us this morning. Good afternoon from Scotland, says Alan Struthers. Great. Papillon, New England. Learning to love myself. Dimbadita, Madison, Wisconsin. Montana, Norfolk, says Terry Stroke. Baldwinsville, New York. Wow, a lot of folks. California in the house. Jersey, hello, Jers. Charlotte, North Carolina. A lot of California. Delaware, wow, you guys are purgatory. Now, purgatory, was that Clyber? I don't see who it was. Purgatory, now, are you making a joke, purgatory, or is it purgatory in New Mexico? Because my friend lived in Durango, Colorado, and his house was right in front of Purgatory Mountain, which is where, when we were in college, we would go skiing there. Rancho Cucamonga, California, Toronto, Ontario, Detroit, Michigan, Cincinnati, Ohio. Hello, Cincinnati. Hello, Berkeley. Man, you Californians are up early. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate. I got to get some merch because I can't believe. Long live Israel. Yes, we're going to talk about Israel, and that's a good place to start. Thank you, St. Louis, Missouri, North California in the house, North Carolina in the house, excuse me, Tallahassee, Thailand. Wow, good morning, Lansing, Michigan, Australia. Wow, it's late in Australia. What time is it in Australia? It's late. Somebody find out. Nikki, what time is it in Australia? Is it 12? I forget what it is. Houston, Texas, Uganda, Africa. That is great. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Don Lemon Show, or as we call it, Hot Topics at 10 a.m. So guess what? Guess how many days? We are less than a month to the election. Can you believe that? T-minus 28 days until Election Day, my friends, and there is so much news to discuss this morning. We have that. We've got some hot topics. We're talking about a lot of things. So I'll go through. The former president, the ex-president Donald Trump, returned to Butler, Pennsylvania this weekend. He held a rally there months after that assassination attempt on his life. And he spread, as you know, a host of vicious lies about multiple different matters. Meanwhile, the Vice President Kamala Harris is juggling two jobs, right? She's being the Vice President of the United States. She's also running. She's helping Americans recover from Hurricane Helene, preparing for Hurricane Milton, and now launching a media blitz to spread her campaign message. She's gotten criticism for, not doing enough media, not doing enough journalists. Now, in that, is she doing enough hard-hitting journalists? I mean, she can't win, right? Everybody's going to criticize her, regardless of what it is, right? So we'll see. On top of all that, today is the one-year anniversary of that horrific October 7th Hamas terror attack. Can you believe it has been 1 year from today? It doesn't seem like, man, time flies. And still, there are still hostages. People are still dying with all of that. So I'm so glad that you're here. We're going to discuss a lot of it. We're going to start with October 7th. Israel is marking a one-year anniversary. This is since Hamas, on October 7th, that attack, no sign of an end to the anguish, the destruction in the Middle East, consumed by a conflict that has killed. It has really killed tens of thousands of people. You wouldn't believe how many people it's killed. Wait till you hear the numbers. Tens of thousands is right. It sounds like a lot, right? Hundreds of Israelis gathered for a ceremony at the site of the Nova Music Festival, that's where Hamas militants killed. This was an estimated 364 civilians. Civilians that they stormed into Israel a year ago. Subsequently, they went on to kill, I should say, about 1,200 more people, take 250 hostages. That's according to Israeli officials, okay? Hamas has called its attack an and hailed its attack and fired rockets at Tel Aviv this morning, just this morning, while the IDF issued evacuation warnings for much of northern Gaza in what appeared to be a major new offensive. So this is a number of people who have died. I mentioned how many people. The official total is 41,800 people that have been killed in Israel's year-long assault on the Palestinian enclave, including more than 16,000 children. That's according to local officials. So that's a headline. That is a lot. I hate to start you off on such a bad, terrible story, but it's the facts, and we need to cover it, and we have to talk about it. This morning, our friends at Morning Joe discussing the one-year anniversary and what's going on, what happened then and what's going on now. Here it is.
The holiest day for the holiest week for Jews, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the New Year and the Day of Atonement. And now we have this new solemn day that we have to mark, an ominous one that we'll mark for the rest of our lives. And I sat on this set about 3 or 4 days after that a year ago, and I said, we are both terrified, but we're not going to be paralyzed. And terrified by what happened, raping, pillaging, killing, decapitating of babies. And then, as Elliot brought up the day after, as you did as well, marches not in defense of us, but calling us imperialists and colonialists, keeping us isolated, our friends being quiet. And then this uptick of anti-Semitism, broken windows of Jewish stores, my kids' high schools having venom painted on its bathrooms, the sense that in a college campus, both of us have kids in the college campus, we had to call them last night and said, hey, don't be an idiot. Your muscles are not big enough to deal with this alone. And so we are alone in ways that we've never, ever experienced. But the counterintuitive, paradoxical part of it is that we're experiencing a Jewish renaissance also.
Yes.
Just extraordinary. Somehow you
so
see
that is where
professionals
we
leaving
begin
other
today
fields to work for Jewish nonprofits.
So we're marking that
went from hundreds as a base to
just a
high
terrible,
hundreds and
terrible
thousands
anniversary.
of
And
people showing up for
what has
classes.
been accomplished? Still, there are hostages that are still there, still have not come home, hostages that have been killed, people still dying. The number of Palestinian children, it's just brutal. It's terrible. I mentioned that the vice president is going on a media tour. She's having to respond to this. She had to respond to it on 60 Minutes. That interview airs, I believe it's tomorrow. And here's what she had to say about the situation there and our foreign policy as it relates to Israel.
Supply Israel with billions of dollars in military aid. And yet Prime Minister Netanyahu seems to be charting his own course. The Biden-Harris administration has pressed him to agree to a ceasefire. He's resisted. You urged him not to go into Lebanon. He went in anyway. He has promised to make Iran pay for the missile attack, and that has the potential of expanding the war. Does the U.S. have no sway over Prime Minister Netanyahu?
The aid that we have given Israel allowed Israel to defend itself against 200 ballistic missiles that were just meant to attack the Israelis and the people of Israel. And when we think about the threat that Hamas, Hezbollah presents, Iran, I think that it is without any question, our imperative to do what we can to allow Israel to defend itself against those kinds of attacks. Now, the work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles, which include the need for humanitarian aid, the need for this war to end, the need for a deal to be done, which would release the hostages and create a ceasefire. And we're not going to stop in terms of putting that pressure on Israel and in the region, including Arab leaders.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
Do we have a real close ally in Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I think, with all due respect, the better question is, do we have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes.
So that was Bill Whitaker. It airs tonight. Howard Stern is the one that airs tomorrow, Tuesday. And then the interview on 60 Minutes airs tonight. Obviously, they taped it before. That is a good question by Bill Whitaker there on 60 Minutes, because you can blame a lot of people for what happened in Israel, right? Mostly Hamas, mainly Hamas. You can blame a lot of folks, and there's some blame to go around, obviously, from Bibi Netanyahu. Israelis, Jews will tell you the same thing. Israel was caught off guard. Awful, horrific. But is he accountable to America for all of the aid? Is the foreign policy worth it? Is it warranted? Those are questions that the American people are asking. A lot of folks are asking those questions. And did she answer it? Not really. She pivoted. How is Bibi Netanyahu being held to account? Or is he doing whatever he wants to do? And then just relying on USA, just thinking the US is going to give me this aid, it doesn't matter, they have to. What's the answer? I'm not quite sure she answered the question, and I'm not quite sure anybody answers the question. But I do think, obviously, Israel is an important ally. But I do think if we're spending resources and money, then Bibi Netanyahu needs to at least somehow listen to the United States when the president asks him, like, what are you doing? Why are you responding this way? Instead of just trudging on and doing whatever he wants to do. There should be some accountability from him as well. What should we do? What should we do? I don't know. I'm not, someone's asking, what should we do? Says Bama Girl. I don't know. I'm not a diplomat. I'm not a politician. I'm not president. But it just seems that Bibi Netanyahu just has free reign to do whatever he wants and does not even care what the United States has to say. So there you go. We'll monitor that, and our thoughts are with everyone today, all of my Jewish brothers and sisters out there. I know this is very painful to, and I hate to say that obviously we're marking, it's the anniversary. It's not a celebration, obviously, but it's the anniversary of something terrible that happened. And we were thinking about all the hostages and the families of the hostages. So, Sabrina, I'm glad I can keep you company on your walk this morning. Thank you very much. So we'll continue to monitor that. Let me know what you think especially about, I mean, look at what's happened. And then is the U.S. going to get pulled into a much bigger war? Obviously, this has implications on the election. There's got to be some answers, but I also believe that there's got to be some accountability from Bibi Netanyahu. Okay, let's talk about what's happening down south. This is going to be a double whammy, right? Number one, we're still not over Helene. Helene is still there threatening. Even though the actual storm is gone, the aftermath is ridiculous. Life-threatening storm surges are expected to hit Florida's Gulf Coast again this week with the arrival of Hurricane Milton now. Which Milton is now, as of this morning, a Category 4 hurricane. It's over the southern Gulf of Mexico right now. The last update, I believe, was 7 a.m. I don't know if we missed an 8. Maybe we'll see. But that was the last update that we have on Monday. The National Hurricane Center said that the maximum sustained winds increased to 140 miles per hour, making it a Category 4 hurricane. This is a very powerful storm. It's supposed to make landfall on Wednesday, day after tomorrow, Wednesday evening, which along with the wider southeastern United States continues to recover from the impact of Hurricane Helene. Widespread evacuation orders are likely across Florida. So many of the people, right, Lita, that's right, holy camoli. Many of the people who have been affected by Hurricane Helene will be affected by this again. And I don't know if these folks can take many more. As many as 15 million people are under flood watches across the Florida Peninsula. 11 million are at risk for tropical tornadoes tomorrow and Wednesday. Here's the thing, though. And like, this is a lot of FEMA. Look, our government agencies aren't perfect, but when you consider the scope of Helene, and I'd have to let me preface this by saying, I'm not down there. I know people are feeling the pain, and you're going to say it's easy for you to say all of this, excuse me. It's easy for you to say all of this while you're sitting in an air-conditioned studio in New York City. But I speak from experience from many, many hurricanes, covering them and living through them, growing up in the South and knowing the Gulf Coast really well. Excuse me. So the scope of this is really tough for any agency to be able to get a handle on it. And I think they're working to do that. But instead of lawmakers trying to help, Republican lawmakers are spreading conspiracy theories that Democrats can and are controlling the weather to destroy GOP voting communities. We'll get into all of that. The FEMA director was on television this morning. Watch.
If you could update us on the recovery effort, are state and local officials across the board getting what they need?
Absolutely, Mika. We have over 4,500 people on the ground that have been here since before the storm made landfall, working side by side with our state counterparts in the communities with our local officials. And all I hear on the ground is gratefulness and compassion and a level of unity to make sure that we're getting people what they need. It's frankly disappointing that we're having to deal with this narrative. And the fact that there's a few leaders that are having a hard time telling the difference between fact and fiction is creating an impedance to our ability to actually get people the help they need.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so look, I can't tell you all of the things that they're spreading, but they're saying one thing, and if you watch social media, it's a lot of folks on social media who don't really have any idea of what they're talking about. And there was one such official. We're going to get back to Morning Joe because they're talking about this. But there was one such official spreading these lies about what was happening on the ground, what's not happening on the ground, apparently what FEMA is not doing. Anyways. But the folks are I love the folks who are taking to social media, who are saying, you know what, you're lying about this. There was this woman who I saw on social media, and I think it's better coming from the people who are actually there. There's this woman on social media, and it goes on, for quite some time. But I think it's important for us to hear because there's this official spreading this lies and disinformation about what FEMA is doing, how much resources they have, the supposed thing about not having any money to respond to, all of these things. Watch her story. She's a great fact checker.
You gonna get on national television and tell the whole world you got nothing left for these amazing people?
8.8 million followers, and this is the first time I've ever fucking seen your face, and I hope to never fucking see it again. You told your 8.8 million fucking followers the biggest bullshit lie going around right now. You think you're doing a good thing for the people who are victims of Hurricane Helene? You think you're helping them spread by spreading mis and disinformation, by making them fear that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have done nothing for them? You're not helping them. You are hurting them. You are causing them more stress and more turmoil, when the fact is that Joe Biden asked them to put more funding for FEMA and the continuing resolution a week before that hurricane hit, and the Republicans for those states voted it down and said, fuck that, no, we're not doing it. And then Hurricane Helene hit, and Joe Biden said, we've got enough for this one thing, but we don't have enough for small businesses and things of that nature. We're running out of money. He told Mike Johnson, call your crew back in. We need you to approve more money for FEMA, because I'm not sure if you're aware of this. I think you need a civics course. The House of Representatives holds the purse string, Officer UD. You, with your full fucking chest, pointed your finger at the fucking screen and blamed the wrong goddamn people. And you're sitting here going, I know you want an apology. I don't want an apology. I want a fucking public correction. So the people who watch your video can take a deep sigh of relief going, oh my God, Joe Biden didn't actually say he's not giving us any more money. It is the Republicans' fault who said, it was Mike Johnson who said, nah, they can wait until after the election. So you don't owe them an apology, you owe them a fucking correction. Yeah, maybe you do owe them an apology. You lied to 8.8 million fucking people, and we can't even get you to you are man enough to, with your full chest, say the loudest, wrongest shit and scare all of the people who are victims of this hurricane, whoever saw that, but you're not man enough to say, I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong information. I was scared in the heat of it, seeing the sadness of all of this. I heard this and I believed it, and I'm sorry. You can't do that? How fucking sad. What a man you are. But for those of you watching Officer Yudi, clearly this man cannot take the time out of his day to stop and fact check information before he spreads it to 8.8 million people. Clearly Officer Yudi doesn't have the wherewithal to say, I have a responsibility to fact check the things I say since I have 8.8 million fucking followers. No, Officer Yudi, I don't think you deserve 8.8 million fucking followers. You can be heated and you can be upset, and we all are watching what's happening there. But this has everything to do with Republicans playing political fucking games, trying to make Donald Trump look good and Biden look bad. Because people like you and 57,000 other people who liked that video are going to go ahead and believe every word you just said when you are 100% incorrect. Oh, and before I go, Officer Yudi, let's make something real fucking clear. It is Joe Biden who is still fighting to get Congress back in session. Not just Congress, the House of Representatives, who holds the purse strings, who approves the funding, how much and to where it goes, okay? He's still trying to get them to come back into session. He's still trying, and it is Republicans saying no. Point the finger of blame where it needs to be pointed, or shut the entire fuck up and stop hurting the people of this disaster with your lies and your disinformation. Fact check or shut the fuck up.
I told you it was long, and she's not wrong. I checked it. The people who refused to fund FEMA, and the people who took the money, right? 2019, I told you that last year, well, a bunch. The person who took money from FEMA to build the border wall, which was not finished and Mexico didn't pay for it, was Donald Trump. Republicans would not fund FEMA. They would not give it any more money, and they left Washington for a break. So know what you're talking about, because they're going to use this in the upcoming election to spread lies about Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, to pretend that it is their fault for whatever is happening with FEMA, whatever funds that they can't, if they can't meet funding, if they can't give people more money. You can't give money you don't have. And the president cannot just willy-nilly give money without Congress approving it, at least for FEMA. He's already declared a state of emergency before the hurricane even happened. Now, listen, I know it's early in the morning for you guys. I apologize for her language, but I think that she is 100% right, and I wanted you to hear it. There's another someone on TikTok who is fact-checking as well. Here it is.
I need y'all to hear me when I say this. If you're one of the people that's getting online right now and saying that FEMA's only giving out $750 in assistance, or that FEMA's out of money because they've been diverting it towards the border or for migrants, or that FEMA is confiscating donations and money, fuck you. And I mean that to the depths of my soul, with every fiber of my being. Because the only thing that tells me when you say shit like that is that you have been so fortunate to never have to use FEMA, to never have gone through something like this. I cannot describe to you the level of rage I have experienced over the last few days, watching y'all spread this mis and disinformation that will get people killed, that will keep people from getting the money and resources that they need to recover. There are multiple programs that you can apply for. Do you want to know how I know that? Because after Ian 2 years ago, that $750 is immediate assistance. That shit showed up in my account 6 hours after I applied for it. I applied for an SBA disaster loan for my business. There are multiple ways you can access money. There are multiple agencies. Do you want to know why FEMA's being tied to the border right now? Because it's under the control of the Department of Homeland Security, DHS. Do you want to know who did that? You can thank George W. Bush and Dick Cheney for that shit, because they did that after 9/11. FEMA's not running out of money because they're diverting it towards the border or for immigrants. They're out of money because Congress doesn't give them enough fucking money. If you're mad about the cap being set at $750 for emergency assistance, or that they're running out of money, call Congress. Take that fucking phone you recorded that shitty ass video on and call Congress. Call your senators, call your representatives, and let them know there needs to be supplemental emergency funding right now. There needs to be a disaster relief bill right fucking now. I would have loved to see this level of outrage and anger and righteous indignation 6 years ago when it took Congress 12 fucking months to pass a disaster relief bill after Hurricane Michael. The way that some of y'all will just get on the internet and say absolutely fucking anything, it's wild to me. Do you think people aren't going to fact check you? Do you think that there are people who haven't fucking lived this before? I don't know what goes through y'all's heads. You're like posting these videos for money, for clout, for your own selfish reasons, to suckle at the chode of some politician who doesn't give a fuck about you. They don't give a single solitary goddamn flying fuck about you. I cannot emphasize to you enough how much harm and damage you are doing by posting those things, saying those things, commenting those things, spreading that misinformation. You have no idea what these people are going through. You have no idea what the recovery looks like because you have never been through it before. This is barely scratching the surface. And you don't know that because you haven't been through it before. There are aspects of this recovery effort I am struggling to wrap my mind around, and I've been through it before, like especially up in the mountains. This storm essentially flattened 5 different states: Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Florida. Like, the sheer magnitude of this storm, and for you to get on here and say things that are wholly unhelpful, spreading mis and disinformation that is causing irreparable harm, fuck you. So if you actually want to be helpful, call your senators, call your congressmen, and let them know FEMA needs more money right now. Let them know that they also need to change some of the parameters and who gets access to that money, because I can tell you there are some people who get denied for FEMA assistance. If you don't have any relevant, true, accurate, helpful information to share, shut the fuck up. That's a real easy one. And lastly, thank you to everyone who is actually being helpful, whether that's sharing or reposting accurate, truthful information, whether that's sharing information about organizations to donate to, whether you're donating money or supplies, or you're physically volunteering. Thank you to those of you who are being helpful and doing something that matters. It cannot be overstated how important that is and how thankful people who are going through it or have been through it before are of you and your help.
I think it's great to hear from people, because as much as we can, news anchors and whatever, reporters, whatever, tell what's going on, the actual people who it's affecting, that's who I want to hear from. There's so much. I hate to even put some of the videos on. Now, I know folks are hurting. I understand that. I get that. But the folks who are spreading all of these lies, and they just don't know what's happening, I don't think that that's helpful. These people, again, fact-checked it. They're telling the truth about where the money comes from, who holds the purse strings. Again, I apologize for the language, but those people are upset. And so they use the language that they want. And we're all adults here. So I hope, like, if there are trolls or MAGA people or Trump supporters or people who maybe don't know what's happening as it relates to FEMA and the recovery effort there, maybe you will learn something from those people who are so adamant about what is going on, who have been through it, who know the process, and they understand the magnitude of this storm and then the possibility of the one coming behind it. The truth is the truth is the truth. Learn. You're going to learn today. Okay. Also, excuse me. There was Twitter, the owner of Twitter spread some information that Pete Buttigieg, who is the transportation secretary, said, you know what, this is wrong. Now, he did not go back and respond like a troll, but he got his point across to someone who had no idea what they were talking about. And it was very effective because they actually got something done. Didn't troll, didn't one-up, someone who understands the power of a large platform and the responsibility one has to be truthful. This is what happened to Pete Buttigieg and what he did after Elon Musk put something out on Twitter and Pete Buttigieg says, that's not quite accurate. This is what Pete Buttigieg did. Watch.
Saw this. I'm sure a lot of people saw this. You actually personally pushed back against some misinformation about hurricane relief in an exchange with Elon Musk, of all people, on Twitter. We are showing it right there, basically telling him that he could call you if he was confused. Whatever you told him seemed to work because he publicly thanked you and said you're on the ball, which is not something he typically does. Did you end up speaking with him, or did he just take your word for it online?
No, he took me up on that. He called. We had a conversation. What we found out was actually happening was the FAA was not closing down any airspace, but there was an issue with pilots who were helping get Starlink equipment to where it needed to be, having the right information. We worked that with local authorities, and we're able to take care of it. And I think to me it's an example of how often the best thing to do is just to pick up the phone. I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but since there has been some confusion and even misinformation about the FAA's temporary flight restrictions, I should probably explain how it works. This is a process that has been in place for decades, and basically what happens is if you have a disaster area, there's a lot of rescue operations going on. A local airport or fire department or the Coast Guard flying helicopters, somebody like that, can request what's called a TFR. It doesn't shut down the airspace, but it increases the level of coordination that goes on because you want to make sure that that airspace is safe and that you prevent the risk of collisions. And so when you hear that term, that's what's going on. Again, I don't mean to get that technical, but I've been amazed at how a little kernel of some detail gets blown up on the internet into something that it's not. And some of what I've seen going on around what the FAA does to coordinate and facilitate rescue flights, including, a lot of good Samaritans who are out there as civilians helping because they have pilot's licenses, and that's a great thing. It's just important that they coordinate and make sure that it's safe.
No question. Sometimes weedy details are essential to making sure people have accurate information.
So a little kernel on the internet can get blown up. So someone spreads some misinformation, they get on and they rant about hurricane recovery, and then people believe it. And it's, oh my God, it's terrible, blah, 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 blah. And now I can imagine people, again, they want things to happen faster, they're quicker, and I get it. People are suffering, right? They don't have services, food, water, on and on and on and on. But it's got to be factual. The same thing with, they're not allowing, helicopters or planes to get in order for me to be able to do my work. That was according to what was said there. And Pete Buttigieg says, no, that's not actually how it works. Let me explain to you how it works and what we're doing. Now, why someone would do that with a platform that big? Shouldn't one be truthful and accurate? That means content moderation to make sure that the content is accurate, true, factual. Pete handled it, though. He handled his business. Pete is standing on business. Let's see. Do we want to continue on with the lies? This one thing. I'm not going to look. We know. Morning Joe's upset about the Helene lies. We get it. The CNN is trying to fact check. We get all of that stuff. The news anchors got it. I think it should have happened a week ago when we were fact checking. I think, okay, fine, it's too late, but they did it. But this is, I just want to, do you remember we had Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking about Jewish space lasers and manipulating the weather and all that? There are certain things that they can do. There's like, cloud sourcing or whatever. But not like manipulate a giant hurricane. The GOP lawmakers are actually spreading this, saying that Helene was an attack caused by weather manipulation. And look, it's pretty convincing to a lot of people. I'm just going to show you an example. Again, this is BS, but watch.
If you can do so, could you tell us about some of your recent discussions, conversations, briefings that you've had with political leaders from the states in question that have asked you what you think? First of all, what did they specifically ask you, if you can tell us? And how did they respond to your answers?
Yes, Colonel McGregor, I had an hour conference call yesterday with the representatives and senators from the Carolinas, and we presented the data to them to answer their questions about how this manipulation occurs. They realized this was not a natural event. They're trying to digest the fact that their states were literally under assault from weather modification operations that are clearly connected with DoD operations, and we can speculate again on the agendas and objectives being carried out, but the fact that the storm was manipulated is absolutely inarguable. We know that technology to stop these rotations from even...
All right. Oh, my God. And, you know, people, because it looks official, right? People will believe it, and they'll spread that, and then it'll go, and then someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene will talk about it, and then the MAGA folks in Congress will talk about it. It's been manipulated, and then it'll get all the way up to Donald Trump, and he'll talk about it. He's going to use it. He will. This is hypothetical. And then he'll say, you know, the Democrats are doing this, and it's a deep state. I mean, and that's how conspiracy theories are born. That's how conspiracy theories are born. Okay, listen, and just one more thing about disinformation that I do want to, because I think it's important to show that, you know, the former president was out this weekend, right? All over the place. Talking about the assassination attempt and all of those things, right, on his life. The assassination attempt that happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. And it's so weird. People still have questions about that and what happened with the ear and all that. And then the attempt at an assassination attempt that happened at his golf course, okay? Andy, I can hear you guys, by the way. And so then I want to put this out there. This is Trump, Morning Joe responding to Trump, his assassination attempt lies. This is him over the weekend at rallies. That's what they're responding to, putting out all of this false, crazy disinformation. And the reason I'm saying it is because this is his media tour. And then I'm going to show you what the vice president is doing on her media tour, and show you the difference between people, the professionalism, etc. So Donald Trump spreading misinformation, and other folks, part of his family, part of his campaign, and then the response from Morning Joe. Here it is.
The past 8 years, those who want to stop us from achieving this future have slandered me, impeached me, indicted me, tried to throw me off the ballot, and who knows, maybe even tried to kill me. You know, I always say there's an enemy from within and there's an outside enemy. And if you're smart, the outside enemy is not going to be a problem. Russia, China, North Korea, we're not going to have a problem if you have a smart president. If you have not such a smart president, then it's a problem. But we have an enemy from within, which I think is much more dangerous than the outside enemy.
First, they tried to silence him. When that didn't work, they tried to bankrupt him. When that didn't work, they tried to jail him. And with all the hatred they have spewed at President Trump, it was only a matter of time before somebody tried to kill him.
And then, guys, they tried to kill him. They tried to kill him.
Can we just stop this? Can we stop this, please?
And it's because the Democratic...
Can we just stop this? Okay. Let me tell you about this. They tried to kill him. The first person was a Republican and had ties to MAGA. The second person voted for him in 2016 and was disappointed in him. These are not Democrats. Who's they when they say they tried to kill him? You mean Donald Trump's own people tried to kill him? Now, nobody should be trying to kill anybody, but facts are important. And what they're doing there is just ramping up. You know, they said, oh, we need to take all of the ratchet down or take down the rhetoric instead of ratcheting it up. That's exactly what they're doing, because they're saying they're blaming. Who are they blaming? They're blaming Democrats, and there's no evidence that Democrats are trying to kill Donald Trump. Well, they're calling him a threat to democracy. The man said he wanted to be a dictator. The man's actions have shown that he threatens democracy all the time. The proof is there. January 6th. I just need 11,780 votes. let me call up the president of Ukraine to curry favor. That is not democratic. So to say he's a threat to democracy is real. To say Democrats are trying to kill him, that's a lie. 100% lie. So now they are ratcheting up the language that can incite violence, rhetoric that can incite violence. Don Jr. and Eric? Okay, go on.
They can't do anything right. They can't do anything right. You see it this week in the FEMA response in North Carolina, and in Georgia, and in South Carolina, and in Florida.
This is a pivotal moment for our country. And I don't even have to tell anybody that here. We can all feel it. This is no longer a fight between Republican versus Democrat, left versus right. It is good versus evil.
Evil.
And good is going to win this battle, ladies and gentlemen.
Good versus evil.
The level of un-American activity that you just saw.
It's unpatriotic.
It's un-American.
Unpatriotic.
They know they're lying. Donald Trump knows that's a lie. He will tell you that the Secret Service, he thought, did the best job they could do. The fact that J.D. Vance and Trump's family would out and out say what they said takes the threat of violence, takes the threat beyond where it was even leading up to January the 6th. This is an increasingly desperate person, an increasingly desperate family.
Pause, please.
Who's preparing for...
Let me look right into the camera and tell you this. Joe ain't lying. And let me say this. Donald Trump is trying to stay out of jail. Donald Trump is trying to stay out of jail. Donald Trump's family members are trying to keep the gravy train from going to prison. The money from stopping. Donald Trump has a horde of legal bills. Very expensive. Lawyers, legal bills. The money that people send to his campaign first go to pay his legal bills. Donald Trump needs money. He's selling coins. He's selling watches. He's selling sneakers. He's selling NFTs. He's selling all of these things. And his family knows it. And they're desperate. And there are other people who are supporting him, very wealthy people who are supporting him because what? They want a tax break. They don't want restrictions and regulations. They want to be able to say whatever they want to say, whether it is harmful, hurtful, racist, incites violence, misogynistic, all of those things. Misogynist, all of that. They want to be able to make money in whatever way they want, regardless if it's harmful for the environment, harmful for the people living in the area, whether only certain people become rich from it. That's why they're supporting him. Yes, I see you. Thank you very much, Camille. It is a fact that he still owes venues money for his campaign. Now, why he's not paying it, I don't know. Hey K says the math is not the math is mathing. The math is mathing, but it's not mathing in the way that he wants. Oh, I forgot about the Trump Bibles. Oklahoma bought a huge amount of Trump Bibles for their schools. Go on, please.
Who's preparing for civil war? They just are. Talking about they're trying to kill him. Democrats are trying to kill him. This is it, and the lies. Think about this. I saw part of Donald Trump's speech this weekend. It was remarkable, the lies. Not just on things this year, but even on policy. He'd just make up things and just throw it out there. And I'd be shocked if the audience was really that stupid to believe the crazy lies that he was throwing out there. But he does it so much. It is the falsehood, the firehood of falsehoods.
The firehood of falsehoods. I like that, Joe. Okay, so that's what Donald Trump is doing, and he's going to continue to spread that wherever he goes on television. He'll go on Fox News, he'll go on conservative media, he goes into the echo chamber, and the folks, the MAGA crowd, they will believe it because they're not watching anything else. They're only listening to that. And he knows it, and they know it, and that's why they say it. It doesn't matter. Facts don't matter. If you're enjoying the show, make sure you hit the thumbs up. If you want to keep Hot Topics going, you want to keep us on the air doing Hot Topics, you got to hit the thumbs up. You have to support us. You have to hit the like and subscribe, okay? All right. So let's talk about the Vice President's media tour. So Vice President Kamala Harris has begun what has been described as a week-long media blitz, Sunday night appearance on 60 Minutes. Well, that's going to air on Monday. Extremely popular podcast, Call Her Daddy. In 2023, Call Her Daddy was Spotify's second most popular podcast globally and in the U.S., only trailing the Joe Rogan Experience. You got to note this, the most popular podcast for women listeners on the platform. But there's also controversy around it, right? Is it appropriate? This is a podcast that talks explicitly about sexual things, right? Women doing sexual things to men and what people do in the privacy of their bedroom. And there's a lot of messiness or whatever, but it's a very popular podcast. The host of that podcast is called Alex Cooper. Alex Cooper is a woman, right? So during that interview with Alex Cooper, the vice president addressed topics that included abortion, reproductive rights, healthcare, housing, student debt relief, on and on and on. She said that Trump's repeated claim that Democrats support abortion after birth is a lie, and that it was insulting to claim that women in their 9th month of pregnancy are electing to have an abortion. And so we're going to talk about the other appearances, right? She has a slate of appearances, but let's stick with this Alex Cooper from Call Her Daddy. Now, whether you think it was, appropriate or not, check this out. This is the Call Her Daddy intro right here.
Daddy Gang, I went to Washington, D.C. to interview Vice President Kamala Harris.
Stop. I don't want to play that one. I want to play her, the Vice President responding, and then I'll play that because there's some backlash from Trump supporters because a lot of people in our audience are Trump supporters. But let's see. This is the Vice President responding to religion and abortion. Okay, here it is.
Rally in Pennsylvania, former President Trump recently told women, "You will be protected and I will be your protector." What do you make of that?
So he who, when he was president, hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did just as he intended. And there are now 20 states with Trump abortion bans, including bans that make no exception for rape or incest, which we just discussed, which means that you're telling a survivor of a crime of a violation to their body they don't have a right to make a decision about what happens to their body next, which is immoral. So this is the same guy that is now saying that. This is the same guy who said that women should be punished for having abortions. This is the same guy who uses the kind of language he does to describe women. So, yeah, there you go.
Women for having untenable pregnancies. Untenable pregnancies. I don't know. I don't like that abortion word. It's just untenable pregnancies. Because there are many reasons for women's reproductive rights. It's not just, an unintentional pregnancy. It goes way beyond that. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, as you know, Sarah Huckabee Sanders was the White House press secretary. I'm not sure if she was exactly the communications director. She was a White House press secretary, lied a lot from the podium. And before she reached the podium, lied on the podium, and then lied after. Now she's governor of Arkansas. And she has nerves. She has been weighing in on women's reproductive rights and how she thinks that Kamala Harris is handling it wrong, and the Democrats and all of that. The vice president responded to Sarah Huckabee Sanders on this Call Her Daddy podcast. Here it is.
I want to ask you a question because again, in speaking about women, there has been a very big fixation on biological children, stepchildren, women that have children versus women that don't have children. It's like a huge point somehow of this entire election, right? I saw the governor of Arkansas said, "My kids keep me humble." Unfortunately, Kamala Harris doesn't have anything keeping her humble. How did that make you feel?
I don't think she understands that there are a whole lot of women out here who, one, are not aspiring to be humble. Two, a whole lot of women out here who have a lot of love in their life, family in their life, and children in their life. And I think it's really important for women to lift each other up. You know, I'll tell you, Alex, one of the things that I have really enjoyed about where the discussion has gone, one of the places it's gone, we have our family by blood, and then we have our family by love. And I have both. And I consider it to be a real blessing. And I have two beautiful children, Cole and Ella, who call me Mamala. We have a very modern family. My husband's ex-wife is a friend of mine, you know, and also I'll tell you, look, I'm a child of divorced parents. And when I started dating Doug, my husband, I was very thoughtful and sensitive to making sure that until I knew that our relationship was something that was going to be real, I didn't want to form a relationship with the kids and then walk away from that relationship. My own experience tells me that, you know, children form attachments and you really want to be thoughtful about it. And so I waited to meet the kids. And they are my children. And I love those kids to death. And family comes in many forms. And I think that increasingly, you know, all of us understand that, you know, this is not the 1950s anymore. Families come in all kinds of shapes and forms.
Okay. So that's her, again, on the Call Her Daddy. And we're going to talk about this for a bit because I want to know what you think. If you think it was an appropriate venue, if you think it was smart for her to do, if you think that it was tough enough, should those questions have been asked by an actual journalist? Is it smart for her to reach a demographic of, you know, of all women? And look, we're, you know, the #1 podcast for women. Okay, that's the whole thing. All right. So I won't do the prosecutorial background. I think we've seen enough of that. What do you think? Do you like it? You think it's appropriate? You know, there's some backlash to it, and I'm going to play it. So now the interview, if you can start it from the beginning. The introduction, and let me just explain. I hope she gets to it in this because I didn't watch the entire thing. I just saw sort of what they wrote. I think people were saying, well, you have to invite Donald Trump. Listen, there's the fairness doctrine or whatever. That's some old school shit that doesn't happen anymore. Like, you know, if you give a Republican 15 minutes, you don't have to give a Democrat 15 minutes. Over, okay? So they're saying you should invite Donald Trump on. A lot of your supporters are Trump supporters, women who support. Why didn't you invite? But I believe she did. And also, so they're mad, and now they're saying, well, why would Kamala Harris do this interview on a a podcast that's about sex. She's a vice president. This is beneath her. Why Democrats think it's it's good for her. Well, like, this is terrible. She should be embarrassed. That's not me saying it. And I'm teeing you up because I want you to hear what Alex Cooper said, and then we'll discuss afterwards. Here it is.
Daddy Gang, I went to Washington, D.C. to interview Vice President Kamala Harris. As you guys know, I do not usually discuss politics or have politicians on this show because I want Caller Daddy to be a place that everyone feels comfortable tuning in. Every single week, I talk about topics like mental health, relationships, sex, sexuality, trauma. Overall, my focus is women and the day-to-day issues that we face. So, I will be honest. I had been going back and forth with this decision for a while. To get involved or to not get involved. But at the end of the day, I couldn't see a world in which one of the main conversations in this election is women, and I'm not a part of it. I am so aware I have a very mixed audience when it comes to politics, so please hear me when I say my goal today is not to change your political affiliation. What I'm hoping is that you're able to listen to a conversation that isn't too different than the ones that we're having here every week. I was given 40 minutes with the Vice President of the United States. No topic was off limits. I prepared 7 different versions of this interview. Do I talk about the economy? Do I talk about border control? Do I talk about fracking? But then I realized you can hear about all of those issues on whichever news site you prefer. And let's be real, I'm probably not the one to be having the fracking conversation. But the conversation I know I am qualified to have is the one surrounding women's bodies and how we are treated and valued in this country. I want to be so clear, since this isn't a one-sided conversation, we reached out to former President Donald Trump to come on the show. If he also wants to have a meaningful, in-depth conversation about women's rights in this country, then he is welcome on Caller Daddy anytime. So, Daddy Gang, with all of that said, let's get into it.
Okay, so here's the thing. I saw some of you saying in the thing, why would you invite not a convicted, but a known and confirmed sexual assaulter on the show? That's legit. Why would someone like her, again, not a journalist, but look, I'm not saying she would do a bad job, but why would she? And so, did you like it? Should Donald Trump go on the show? Should those questions have been asked by a journalist? Or should she be going in these spaces, right? Someone, on a podcast that gets explicit about sex. Now, here's the thing. I say that because you're going to go, well, it's Don Lemon's going against Alex Cooper. No, I'm trying to make a point here, because nobody says that when Donald Trump or someone, a conservative goes on Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is very explicit stuff about men and sex and BJs and boobs and all that stuff. So do a number of other podcasters. Donald Trump goes on right-leaning podcasters that do not deal in facts. Right? Aiden Ross, the guy who gave him a Cybertruck. Check out his stuff if you dare to. And a number of these other podcasters he goes on. The comedian who, what's his name? Crap, I can't remember. Theo Von. Thank you, Andy. He goes on Theo Von. You ever seen Theo Von, some of the conversations that Theo Von says? They talked about drug use, all of those things, his cocaine addiction, his drug addiction. Theo Von, and then he has this friend, Theo Von has a friend, and I forget his name, Asian guy, funny guy. They talk all things about their penises, their penis sizes, all of these things. And no one criticizes Donald Trump from going on these podcasts. But they're saying, oh, they think this is great for her to go on to someone who talks explicitly about sex and blah, 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 blah. Okay, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Now, as an sort of old school journalist, I'm like, can't you go on and talk to Kristen Welker about this stuff? Or Donald Trump, why are you going out and you're trying to, New York Times did a thing, why are you trying to reach the manosphere? And he's doing it, right? And he's got the Twitter crowd and he's got all of that. So there's a part of me that goes, what are we doing here? Like, why is everyone avoiding everyone with a press credential? Like people who can, who follow up and do like lots and lots of research. I'm not saying anything against Alex Cooper or any of those people, but I'm just saying there's a part of me that's like, this is kind of weird. That this is where we've come to, where the people who are going to run the country can go into spaces where there is no editorial rigor, no editorial standards. But here's where we are. So, you're right, Sidney Lockett. Podcasts are the new thing, especially for young people. I agree. So, hey, look, more power to her, more power to Alex Cooper, more power to whatever. But we have to talk about these things and we have to figure out, is this what we want to do? How far are we going? Because remember, Joe Rogan during the pandemic, a lot of misinformation about, ivermectin, and then all the beyond him, hydroxychloroquine and all that stuff. No editorial standards or rigor. I do have an issue with that. Go where you want to go. But I do think you should do both. There should be a combination of both. So, next up, she did 60 Minutes. She did, she's doing Howard Stern tomorrow. She's doing The View today. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. So that's her media blitz. So what do you think? Is there enough, serious stuff? Enough real journalists in there? You think it's fine? You guys may think it's fine, and I think there should be both. I think there should be both, because I do think there's a reason that we have a media and journalists part of the First Amendment. Right? And look, folks have been doing late night. I'm not saying she shouldn't do late night TV. I'm not saying anybody should do any of that stuff, but usually people do both. Bill Clinton, remember the saxophone? This is not anything new. But we can't, I don't think the people who are running for office can just do those things or mainly do those things. They got to take the tough questions. So anyways, that's it. I don't think I have anything funny. Did I miss something funny? I wanted to do something funny. I had a dog video that I forgot to give my team. I said I wanted to end on something funny because I have a senior dog, and I wonder how long it takes my team to get this up. I have a senior dog, and I saw this really cute video of a senior dog this morning, but I don't know if I have it. Anyways, the senior dog's so happy to see his owner, but wasn't moving very well, and then I wanted to show it, and that was going to be my little thing, but I can't find it. I'll find it for you, and I'll send it to you. I'll put it up another day. Okay, so everyone, make sure before you get out of here, hit the like and subscribe. It affects the algorithm. We appreciate it. And then we're going to see you back here tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to talk about, we'll look at the Vice President's interview on The View. We'll talk about all the other stories that are coming out. It's enough to see where the hurricane is going. We have lots to talk about. And remember, guys, this is important. This is for all of the money, as they say. 28 days until the election, less than a month. What is your voting plan? What is the website that we usually put up for voting so that people can get information, if we can put that up? What is your plan to vote? How many people are you calling, texting, going to see and saying, hey, vote, vote, vote? How many people are you going to do it? Are you doing it? We'll make sure we get the voting website. I think it's vote.org or something like that. But make sure you have a plan. If you can still register in many places right now. You can, in some places, early voting has already started. Bank your vote. Have a plan. Bank your vote, because maybe there will be a natural disaster like a hurricane or something. Who knows what will happen? But make sure you go out and vote. Is The View tomorrow? Okay, well, maybe it is tomorrow. But I think Howard Stern is tomorrow. I'm not sure when The View is. I should probably call Sonny or whatever. Should we call him now? No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to call him. So thank you. See you at 5 o'clock. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure you hit the like button. It helps us with the algorithm. And also, we'd love for you to become a subscriber. So hit that button, too. We're live every day at 10 a.m. Eastern Time and 5 p.m. Eastern, so there's plenty of content for you to check out.